Hi everyone, welcome to today's career road mapping session. We have two amazing network members with us today. We have Adam and Eugene. But before we get started with that, we're just going to do a quick roundup of how the Tokyo Liftoff Film Festival is going on. So this week is the newcomer short films that are running and the trendsetter documentaries that will be running until the 28th of June, 10 p.m. BST. So you've got a few days left to grab that festival, sit down with your friends and watch some amazing films. But remember to stay 2 meters apart if you're going to meet your friends. Claire and I are actually 2 meters apart. We can't actually reach each other, but we are abiding by the rules.
We are.
Claire, do you want to say anything about what the filmmakers can win?
Yeah, so it's been a fantastic 3 weeks, and as Nat said, we're in our final week of it now. The second round will be announced very shortly once the final two programmes are concluded. And we have got up for grabs live screenings at next year's Tokyo Liftoff Film Festival, and we can actually be in Shibuya district. So that will be fantastic, as well as our season awards up for grabs. You can see the just above me there, the season award trophy, where we have 13 categories?
15 actually.
15 different categories, each with 4 or 5 nominations, and so every film in their respective category could potentially be receiving a nomination. So everyone who's participated, stay tuned for more information on that next week.
Okay, so without further ado, the two filmmakers joining us today, we have Adam and Eugene. Hi guys, thank you so much for joining us.
How do you do?
Yeah, good. So it would be nice to get a better understanding of what type of filmmaking you're into, what kind of films you make, what kind of problems you're up against. So if you would like to give yourself an introduction and just give us a little bit more information, then that would be brilliant. Eugene, do you want to kick off with that?
Yes, Adam told me I'm going first.
I know.
I am an Australian and Maltese writer, director, producer, and I have done most of my filmmaking work and training and mentorship in Australia, but I'm now living in Germany, and I've been here for 18 months, and the plan is to stick around here and try and pull my lorem opus off the ground here, if at all possible, I guess. So it's new territory for me. But yes, I've got a film in the Liftoff the coming festival in New York. So I'm quite pleased about that.
Starting on the 1st of July.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about what film is taking part in the festival?
Ah, yes. Well, I'm actually really a little bit thrilled, actually, because it's been the longest birthing process of anything that I've worked on, and I think I began sort of the development of it as a film sort of began in 2000. So it's been a very, very long process to get it to like, in fact, really did the finishings of it very recently, and when I was in the UK. So it's taken a very long time to bring it to the place that it is now, and it's called Praxidike 1 Second Before Awakening.
Wow, cool.
It's developed from like 3 different sources, and it's sort of a surreal horror satire, if you like, and definitely the most ambitious thing that I'd ever tried to pull off, and obviously the time it took to bring it into being is proof of that. So I'm really quite thrilled that Liftoff has taken it on.
So what is the plan with this project? Obviously you're screening with us next month, 1st of July, in the New York Liftoff Festival. But have you submitted it to other festivals, or what kind of route are you going down?
Well, yeah, I just sort of looking at it on the face of it, I was like, I feel like festivals, or at least my experience with them, has been that there's a whole meta criteria that one is completely oblivious to. Like it's, you sort of want to, I spoke with a festival consultant in Australia about all of my work at one point, and I had a film that was doing really well in the US, like it got into 5 festivals over there.
Wow.
And I was trying to push it, in Europe, and I'm like, why do the US like it, and why don't the Europeans like it? And she said, oh, well, it's a relationship movie, and they like relationship movies in the US. I mean, it's sort of very arbitrary kind of criteria behind people's choices, which is hard to predict, I guess. So in saying that, I'm very curious to see what I'm gonna try and position this film into festivals where I feel like they already have liked some of my earlier work,
Sure,
and just see
that's
if
a
I
good
can go
idea.
back and push it with them, and see if it can take on a life in that area. And then I'm looking at later down the track, I'm wanting to package together an anthology feature, which I hope to then sell.
Perfect.
So
Great.
yeah.
That sounds really cool. It was interesting what you said about audiences. It's something that we talk about with our filmmakers as well. So Liftoff have festivals in 11 cities around the world. We have judges in each of those cities who help us with exactly that, understanding what the audiences in that area are interested in.
Okay.
So, one, it gets bums on seats in cinemas when you host a festival, bringing new audiences to the filmmaker's work. So, it's really interesting that that's the advice that other film doctors are giving as well.
And it's why it's important to research festivals as well. You can be throwing so much money down the drain if you just blindly submit to all the festivals that maybe you like the sound of and that your ego would enjoy you submitting to. You know, our co-founder always says that. But it is important to research tastes because it's such a shame to just be blindly submitting and potentially wasting money, which, let's be honest, once you've already completed a film and spent a fortune, you don't then want to be wasting money chasing the festival circuit too. So it's good to be wise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay, and Adam, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Adam Chase Cohen. I am a producer and director, dabbling in writing, entrepreneurial filmmaker in general. I have done for my day job a lot of production management work, working on Netflix sets, Comedy Central sets, a lot of commercials as well. So a wide variety of formats and within the kind of film and TV world. And yeah, I've got a feature script that I am focusing on a lot of my attention right now on while production is paused, that I've co-written it and plan on co-directing it, and we're trying to package it right now because we've got some production companies that are interested but are really craving more of the quote-unquote package.
So what is it that they are asking for in this package?
Nothing specifically, unfortunately, but I think that the general interest is in some talent attachments in particular, and then as well as probably some more seasoned producer talent to attach as well, and like an advisory guiding kind of capacity as well.
Sure, that's interesting because as Liftoff, we go to all of the major film markets around the world as well. So we went to Berlinale this year, or EFM. We went to AFM in Santa Monica, and we also go to Cannes each year. I really hope Santa Monica and AFM is still going ahead. We got an email from them the other day saying that they're going to try their best to. So we'll see. But
yeah,
hopefully.
I mean, Sundance is still planning on happening as well. So,
yeah.
They're going to hold out until they can't, I don't think. So.
Sure. Absolutely. But the advice that these sale agents give us to feed back to the projects that we take and to our professional members is essentially the same as what you've just told us. You need to have someone known attached to the project, so a known actor. That could be a producer as well. So it's interesting that you brought that up. They just want that assurance that there are, especially if you are a first-time filmmaker, that there is someone there to help you progress with your project, get it in the right direction, and remove those risks. It is interesting. We actually took a project called Boiling Point, and it got a lot of interest, and that was because it had Stephen Graham attached to it. When I then got back to the filmmaker with the list of sale agents and distributors that wanted to set up meetings, they were already in meetings with other production companies because they ticked a lot of the deliverable lists, and they actually made a short film first of the feature. So it was just a little snippet of what they wanted to do, and they produced it to their highest quality, and it did amazingly around film festivals all over the world as well. So they had that to launch their feature onto, and from that, because it did have a star in it, Stephen Graham, and the director, this was his first feature, but he had proven himself in the short, and also use the same team in the short film that he was going to use for the feature, it literally got picked up, and there was different fights going on between quite well-known UK production companies and distributors. So really well done to him, and that should be released later this year,
Yeah,
fingers crossed, or early
exciting.
next year. They actually just managed to shoot it before the UK went into lockdown. So
Oh, wow.
congratulations to
Oh
that
my
team.
gosh.
I know. That was stressful in itself. I mean, it's a one-take film anyway, so they've already got heightened stakes, and then you've got the pressure of COVID-19, COVID-19 on your shoulders before the UK goes into lockdown. Insane. So well done, Philip Barantini. Well done.
Yeah, I can't imagine, but that does seem like a good place to be in overall. So
Well, the
they
UK did
position
go into
themselves.
lockdown.
They positioned the project well. Yeah.
Yeah, so then they had plenty of time and no stress to edit it, get the color grading. Nobody knows what else is going on in the industry right now, so then they had the time to perfect their project. But my point is, another way that you can look at packaging your project is by creating a short film of the feature film, or a funky, what's it called, sizzle reel,
Yeah.
to give the flavor and the tones of what it is that you're trying to achieve. And sometimes when you are talking to distributors, sale agents, or financiers, whoever it may be, they can find it hard to envision what you're trying to do. So if you have that pack, your what's the pack called?
Your EPK?
Your EPK in place, as well as the treatment with lots of nice images, and also a sizzle reel or something physical that you can show, all of the dots kind of click in their heads. So
Yeah.
then they get excited by that, and then they want to be involved because they understand what it is that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, you want to give them something that they can't take their eyes off, and that they're not just going to think, oh, there's another 40 pages of information to scroll through when I've already got those 4 scripts on my desk and I've already got this to go through. Give them something that instantly is going to really grab their attention. But just to go off what you were saying that.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, just to go off, when we've spoken about producers and we've spoken about attached talent and cast, one of the other things that I thought was interesting, just to sort of potentially be open to, was especially for debut feature directors, was if you're open to the idea of co-directing. That definitely was something that appealed to some of the people we were speaking to as well, because they just sort of said, again, it's what Natalie was saying, if you're open to collaboration and just that little bit of guidance, it's just minimising, of course, the massive risk that you have to understand they're taking on. So I just thought that was an interesting thing that people should maybe bear in mind.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Definitely. I just had a quick follow-up question, if that's
go
all
for
right.
it. Yeah.
You mentioned the short into feature route, but also kind of just presenting like a sizzle. We've got like a lookbook that we've designed, a
Perfect.
PDF version of that, but I wonder if you found it that the sales agents are much more attracted to something motion, over time.
To be fair, the first thing you need to have down is your synopsis.
Right.
Which literally a sentence or two explaining exactly what it is, because that is the first thing that they ask for. The second thing is who's already attached to this project. If you pass those kind of barriers, that's when they ask for the EPK, the treatment, the everything else. But personally, coming from a film festival point of view and understanding what I've heard from the markets, is that you get inundated with submissions constantly. So what's going to make yours stand out? And not many people are supporting their projects with a short film or a sizzle reel or some sort of motion picture with their project. So once that comes in, and maybe they are interested by your synopsis, if you have that as well as everything else, then they're definitely going to take you a little bit more seriously than someone who's just like, I've got an idea, here it is, but I don't really know what else to do with it.
It's going to be amazing.
But it will be amazing. Give me your millions, please. No, if you have everything in place, then it's a lot more, it's an easier decision for that person, basically, who you're talking to. And for whoever they need to talk to sell then your idea, your project to the bosses, whoever's higher up within the company who can make those final decisions.
And so, Adam, how are you going about approaching these people? Is it through known contacts, or are you sort of finding email addresses for acquisitions and heading in blind, so to speak?
Yeah, well, as of now, we're leveraging some existing connections, including the Liftoff network, trying to see if, Ben Pullman is maybe interested in bringing the project on to, I think, the next market that y'all are attending. But also talking with some folks at like some of the big talent agencies like CAA.
Yeah.
Like I said, leveraging some of the existing contacts we've had by working in LA. But, I definitely think that we're about to get to a point where we're going to have to cold call an agent's desk and say, hey, we've got this project and we've got this person interested, and kind of start that ping pong.
Yeah, sure.
Just a word of warning with that. I had a really interesting meeting with a sales agent in Covent Garden here in London, and she just said to me, and obviously she does not speak for everyone, so this could just be a generalization, but I understand it completely. She said she hates just being bombarded cold with everything already attached, just saying, please see this. She said she much prefers it if she has the producer who she's been in contact with, especially those companies that have producer meets regularly throughout the year, or if there's sort of like a bit of a rapport built up first, rather than just being sent over a pitch deck or especially a script. She said, if you knew how many hours in theory people expect me to be able to read every week. So just something I would definitely consider is not immediately attaching everything, even though from your perspective it might be easy to think, well, why not? I kind of got nothing to lose by just sending it over.
Right. Well, to your point, maybe, once I am at a point where there is an attachment or two, then maybe I can use the sizzle that we'll end up creating for your advice, and introducing with that, just so it's a little teaser kind of, right?
Totally. Yeah, exactly.
So I think the first step then is to find someone who may be interested, a star that you can attach to the project. So agents is the best way to go down that route. And then something that I heard in a talk once, which really ignited my imagination, was, for example, say I'm trying to contact United Agents in the UK, which is essentially CCA. Is that what you called it?
CAA, yeah.
CAA. It's essentially that kind of level, but here in the UK. Now, they take on a certain amount of graduates from drama school each year, and they have fresh talent on their books each year. So say you're making a feature film and you have a role in mind for an A-lister, but then you've got other roles that are minor roles within the film but would be perfect for those graduate actors or their fresh talent, then you can say, well, actually, I'm very keen on these other people that you represent. So if you have, for example, 6 to 8 of their actors for your film, then they're going to be way more invested in your project than just going for that one A-lister. So see if there is a way that you can incorporate multiple people from their agency into your project. You never know where that might go. It's worth a try.
That's definitely great advice, I think, because, the agent makes a commission. So they're going to want to involve as many of their represented folks as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you can offer roles to upcoming artists,
right,
like Natalie was saying, who they probably find it harder to, place in work. Such a good idea.
Well, I know Natalie has a stage combat background from a past conversation, so we'll get her involved, as soon as we can.
We'll ship her over to the sun.
Plenty of stunts to be had.
Oh yeah, just tell me what discipline you want me to practice, and I'll get ready. Don't worry.
Yeah, great.
I'll come and be her cheerleader just so I can be in the sunshine with you guys.
Oh yeah, well it takes place in West Texas, so there will be plenty.
Oh, I'll be there. Don't you worry. Cool. Do you have any other questions regarding film markets, how to package your projects? Any other thoughts in that area?
Yeah, I guess a last question before maybe hopping back to Eugene, I guess, but in his questions, but the kind of curiosity about I hope it's useful for everyone. But the curiosity I have is still about that sizzle you're talking about, I guess. Okay. I've heard from a couple folks that it's almost just as useful to set the tone and show your kind of your best foot forward by actually just editing a composite of existing films that match your tone and kind of showing that art. Have you seen successful examples of that as well?
Well, actually, we took a project to Cannes last year called A Rush of Blood, and he didn't have a sizzle reel at that point, and we got him talking to a producer, Yannick from Fizzy Motion. They're currently in communication at the moment, and he didn't have that sizzle reel to begin with. But then they've been communicating, and then we bumped into Tristan, the filmmaker, and Yannick at EFM in Berlin. And he showed us a sizzle reel that he's got ready to present back to Yannick and the other companies that he was meeting. He then had a lot more success at the market because he had that. Because if you've got a meeting that lasts 5 to 10 minutes and you quickly have to show everything, if you've got a sizzle reel that lasts 60 seconds, but it has got everything in it, and it tells that arc of the story that you want to portray, then that's so much quicker for the other person to understand what you're trying to achieve. And then if you can back that up with, well, I've got X, Y, and Z interested, I'm actually in communication with this agent, and they've said that 5 to 6 people in their books might be interested. Might is not a good word to use. Be a little bit more kind of definite with these things. If you can, the more you can go in with, the better it is for you. But personally, I do think a sizzle reel is the best way. And absolutely right, use other footage that you've seen from other films to create that story arc. Unless you want to go down the make your own short film version, which takes way longer and takes a lot more money to do.
Right. I like what you said about not using the word might as well. Just like they are interested, not they might be interested.
Obviously, be careful with what you say, because if they think okay,
only
well,
honestly, yeah.
Brad Pitt's attached, might be attached, and then they find out he's not, then obviously you're going to lose that deal.
That'd be a big disappointment, for a lot of people,
Sure. Yeah, no, I think I've seen some successful ones where they did use snippets from other films. And another thing that is useful, if the actors are known in the sizzle reel, and that's the kind of style that you're going for, the kind of tone that those actors have been in, then again, it's instantly going to resonate with the person who watches it, because they are familiar with maybe that film, or they are familiar with those actors. So then they feel more engaged with that story that you're going to try and tell.
And we did have a great question on this when we spoke about this in our workshop called An Introduction to Film Markets. And someone rightly sort of said, where are the lines in terms of like copyright issues with taking from very famous, well-known films? But the point is, if you are sending this as a private link, purely for demonstrative purposes, then there really aren't any problems. But obviously what you don't want to do is go posting that on like your social media, for instance. But as long as you're keeping it,
or YouTube, because they will shut you down.
Yeah,
you'll have
two
strikes in one
link. A private Vimeo link.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Cool. Okay.
Fantastic.
So,
Cool. Everything you asked, Adam, was sort of more or less what I was going to ask too. So I'm happy. But I was going to just sort of, I haven't gone down this path yet with Ben, but I'm looking at trying to submit my latest screenplay and supporting documents for representation with Liftoff. In terms of classifying it, because I think you have different options there for, do you want to put it in as, are you looking for development? Are you already in pre-production? Or are you, how do you define those categories? What are you looking for in terms of representing a submission from one of your members?
sure.
What sort of accompanying material do you want to see at this base level?
Sure. I mean, the reason why we are so open with those criteria is because I think when we went to Cannes last year, we really saw the huge spectrum that different companies are after. You had the companies that were still far more traditional, and they absolutely favoured, or if anything, wouldn't look at anything other than a completed feature film. But then you've got this whole wave of companies that are really keen to get on board, if anything, as early as possible. Sometimes even before a final draft of a script, the whole point being that they can really engineer and help you on that route to market, because they know exactly what the sort of pitfalls are from their point of view. They can sort of avoid anything, but also they just know exactly how to market it as they follow that journey with you. So that's why we kind of loosely give those categories, because we mean pre-production in terms of, yes, have you just got a script that may or may not be in its final draft? Are you in production? Because some companies even said that if you've got something like a 90% finished film and you just ran out of budget to finish the final 10%, there are a handful of companies that will happily take that on as well if they see the potential in it and they think, wow, we just need to kind of put in another £5,000-10,000 to just go back and do the ADR on that scene. There were some companies that were really happy to do that, but then equally, of course, we take completed projects too.
Oh wow.
More specifically, I would say more than shorts, because like everybody knows, it's difficult to sell shorts. What we do like taking shorts for, though, is as proof of concepts, which Natalie's already touched on. Companies loved that, especially with emerging talent, because again, it's just that absolute hard cold evidence of it's going to be good. Like, this is the style that we're going for. And does that answer your question?
That answers my question. Okay, because it all seemed to. I was just a bit hesitant to make a move until I thought, well, I better really get my act together at my end before I put my toe in the door. But what I have at the moment is a script. I have my a treatment synopsis. I'm trying to put together a schedule and a budget at the moment, and I'd probably be looking at some artwork or the old days we used to call it a mood book. Do people still go in for those?
Mood book,
lookbook, EPK.
Lookbook.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
I mean, in terms of budget, we've been told by most people that they do not expect to see, of course, a fully executed budget. But what we were once told, and I thought this made a lot of sense, what they just like to see is that level of awareness. So just if you can sort of say, this is where we're going to be trying to look, this is where we expect some of this to come from, that just gives them sort of like, I think, some assurance that you've got your head screwed on. But I definitely don't think they expect to see a fully completed budget, if that's...
A ballpark figure. This is this will be a the inverted commas under $1 million low budget film, but
then that's the other thing. If it is under $1 million in quotes, then look at the companies that work in that area, because a lot of companies won't touch films that are under 3 million or that lower budget. I mean, come on. But so
that sounds right to me too, because I had an experience with this project that I'm putting out there as well, that we created a budget, and like I said in my intro, like I've done production management, so I've had a lot of experience crafting budgets and working with budgets, and so it was interesting to hear from folks, oh well, yeah, okay, that's cool that you came up with even a ballpark number, but this should actually be more in the 3 to 5 range, or picking that different range. Everyone's gonna have a different opinion on that, it seems like.
Sure.
Okay.
Does that come down to below the line, above the line sort of thinking, really? Is that the final thing?
I think so, from what I've heard, that it's like, oh well, if this person was attached, then it would be this 30 million plus project, or whatever the logic is based on the attachments.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. Have you both heard of a platform called Cinando?
Sorry, say that again?
Cinando?
I don't think so.
Claire, can you spell it? I always get it wrong.
CINANDO.
That does kind of sound familiar. Is that like a distributor kind of thing?
Fantastic database.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which we've used for years now. In fact, they're affiliated with all the major film markets. So if you get yourself a badge to any of the markets, it will also come with sort of like, I don't know, a year subscription.
Right.
Cinando. Yeah.
That's right. I've seen that on like American Film Market's website.
Yeah,
they offer
absolutely.
That as like
the logo, as soon as you Google it, you'll be like, of course, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. But as Claire said, it is a fantastic database, and it literally has every single sale agent's on there, distributors on there, production companies.
A guide to stalking.
It's a perfect guide to stalking, basically. Yeah, exactly that. But the best part about it, if you have that year subscription, you can scroll down and see who's in the company. And then from there, you have the email address directly for that person and the phone number. Or if they don't want that information there, you have the general contact, phone number and email. So then you can just phone up that company and ask who, actually you probably will see who the correct person is. So you could be like, search Liftoff Global Network. Hi guys, would it be possible to speak to James Bradley? I can see that he's the co-founder and I would like to ask him some questions. And if you're a nice company like us, we'd put you through. But that's like kind of they have the gate. They're the gatekeepers into this world, essentially. Everyone is on there who uses it, and the contact information is there. So.
And I know Liftoff is creating a database kind of like that too. Are you also creating data bases or collecting data points on some of the audience aspects that we were talking about earlier in terms of like the diverse markets around the world that have different demos for interest in different types of projects and things like that, based on your international festivals?
Yeah, so we always count down how many people come to the festivals in each area, and obviously they range from how many years the festivals have been in that city. So for example, LA's been running for 6-7 years, and it's one of our most popular film festivals, which is amazing. So we know that we're going to get a good audience there, but we do calculate everything down and note down what's going on each year. Whereas Tokyo as well, it's a smaller venue than our Los Angeles festival, but it sells out every year, and we do look at the content that we are programming versus the following years and what we're programming in other cities. Yes, although that is for us at the moment, that hasn't been shared with.
Of course.
Filmmakers.
Well, that's going to take time to
Absolutely,
aggregate, I'm sure. But that's cool. That's cool to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions, Eugene, in this area?
Yeah. In terms of a higher budget feature, because I'm technically it looks like I'm taking on some other projects as a producer now, but I've been involved in the development of them with my old mentor from Eastern Europe. Nice. But he's got two very ambitious projects which we've lived with for a long time, and that's sort of been my rite of passage into understanding a little bit more about this. Is Liftoff? Is it your domain that you would take on a project that was bigger in budget and scale, or are you mainly looking at trying to assist people with their entry level work?
We are
is that the right question? I don't know.
We like to support filmmakers on their journey, essentially, and our main demographic is first-time feature filmmakers, people who've made quite a lot of short films, through to people who have just left film school. So I would say that the budgets and the ranges that we are seeing are around the $1 million mark max. Yep. And that's where we're building our reputation up in the film markets. Saying that though, we do have our hands in other companies that work on the higher budgets, but the projects that we're seeing aren't in that range yet. But that will come. As the more we do these film markets and the more projects that get submitted and the more things that go on, that will go up and up and up. So never say never, but at the moment it's not in that price range. I would say that we are below the 1 million on average. Yeah.
Okay, it's okay, cool. That's excellent. This piece that I've been living with for a little while now that I've written is it's sort of I sort of customized it, really thinking I want to be able to make this anywhere. So wherever the money falls from, that's where we're going to make it.
Perfect. Perfect.
But in my heart of hearts, I think it is a UK film. I think it has that tone and it has that kind of mythology behind it. So I've been wanting to try to explore what is available in the UK. So I will be sending you guys something soon.
Great. Okay. So then exciting. I think what leads on from this is co-production. So if you are interested in shooting in the UK, but you're based in Germany and you're from Australia, then you can use those 3 areas to help fund your feature. Yes, there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of things that you have to go through to get that funding. But let's take Malta, for example. I'm pretty sure it's 40% tax rebate you get if you shoot there, which is huge.
That's enormous. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's almost half of your budget that you get
Are
back.
those payroll tax rebates usually, or are they just sales tax rebates?
I need to know a little bit more about it personally myself, but I remember when we were at...
It changes all the time, too.
It does change all the time. But I think it was Cannes that we were at, and Malta was literally plastered everywhere because that was the destination of the year. So there's just keep an eye on where the biggest tax rebate is at this moment in time. And if you've got a script that is adaptable to be shot anywhere, why not look into it? Why not try and shoot in that location? Or adapt your script slightly so you can shoot there. Obviously, you have to work with filmmakers or different people from Malta in order to get that tax rebate. You can't just rock up with your own team and expect everything to be coming back to you. You have to use their criteria. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But in some countries, I think that list is very small, and then equally in some countries, it's much bigger, where they really want you using local talent, a certain amount of local businesses involved, like
catering.
Exactly.
It could literally be anything. So just look at what the requirements are. But yeah, co-production is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a good way to get money back into your projects. And when you're approaching investors, if you have that information, then it's not such a kind of huge deal if they give you that money up front, because you can say you will 100% get that back when the project is completed and we've got the finances in place. So financiers, investors, mum and dad, tell them that, and and they'll be more likely to be on your side.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you.
Cool. So did you ever make films in Australia?
One more time, please. Sorry.
Did you make films in Australia before you made the move to Europe?
Yeah, I made all of my shorts in Australia. About 5 of them in Sydney. But actually, when I was in Adelaide, there was a federally funded community for entry-level filmmakers. So they were like a support system for people that wanted to start making movies and train and get a sort of a first foot into making connections and making work. And every state used to have one, actually, and I think then they defunded the other states, so it's now just South Australia that has a support network. But I did. So I got my start in South Australia. I made some stuff off my own back and scraped my savings together, and then and then years later went to train formally in Sydney, and that's where I've made all of my recent stuff, which is now doing the festival thing. So yes, there's definitely a lot of interest in film in Australia, but it's I don't know. I think it's a difficult market. We had a very good period of amazing, landmark films about 30 years ago, and then industry went into decline for a little while. So it seems to have plateaued a bit now, but I am curious. I'm yet to really go exploring into what money is available there and what resources are available yet. Because obviously I tried to get out. So
no, it's interesting because when we were in LA, Screen Australia were actually holding a function at the same venue as we were. So we were kind of eavesdropping in what was going on in Australia, because that was actually the next festival we were flying to as well. So Screen Australia is definitely an organisation, a little bit like the BFI here, and I'm sure there's loads in LA as well. But Screen Australia definitely resonated with me as the place that everyone gets funding from for their films in Australia. And we often see their logo at the beginning of short films and feature films that we screen in Australia as well.
All of the individual capitals have their own individual
kind of region,
government funding body as well.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So that actually changes the dynamics slightly. And they all have the different terms and conditions for applying in each place. So
does that fall under Screen Australia, or is that its own thing?
I'm not entirely sure, but I feel like if you like the Screen Australia is sort of like the keystone, and then the other territories have a share in the same money. but there'll be money coming from the individual states as well. So
Very cool.
if you like, I've heard of Screen Australia stepping in to rescue a production at some point, maybe like pour in the last amount of funds so that a major film can be made, especially if it's going to be a film that gets big wider recognition. Sometimes Screen Australia just sort of supports its birth into the world sometimes. So yes.
As I was mentioning before we went live about film trivia, I actually have some film trivia on Australia. So the first feature film ever made was made in Australia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was about Ned Kelly.
Yes, that's correct. It's the silent movie, yeah?
Yeah, phew.
Classic.
I thought there was a pause there. I was just like, that was correct, right?
Wow.
So, yeah. So that's my film trivia for this week.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Two of our greatest Australian iconic movies were both made by foreigners, actually, not by Australians.
But shot in Australia then.
Shot in Australia, and they're the most Australian stories, I think, on screen.
Was Crocodile Dundee one?
I get the impression that was a pretty American film. So.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Still, just when I hear that, I'm just like straight in Australia. So.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. Cool. Do you have any film trivia, Claire, or anyone else? It could be about anything.
Definitely wasn't prepared for that.
No.
But yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll jump in then while you're thinking. So we've done the first feature film, but the first documentary on record was in 1922, and he was shooting Eskimos. And unbelievably, he had to find out that shooting on 16mm does not work well with being a chain smoker. And he lost something like 30,000 feet of negative when his whole little wooden shack that he was working in went up in flames.
Wow.
Oh.
But he went back, carried on shooting, and then eventually Nanook of the North did come out. But don't chain smoke around negative. But that was the first ever documentary made.
Yeah.
The first documentary, was it a feature?
A feature, yeah. Nanook of the North. Robert Flaherty.
Cool.
But it took
Well
some
done.
perseverance to get there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh, mate.
No, don't worry.
'cause
Don't worry.
The first documentary, I guess, would probably be like the Muir Brothers stuff, arguably, but not feature length.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Still burning stock is pretty savage. You know?
I know.
Can you imagine? I mean, he spent so much time. I can't remember how many months or even years he spent getting that, but just
What an adventure.
Yeah.
unbelievable.
You know the film The Sacrifice by
Tarkovsky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The big scene at the end where they burn the house down.
Mhm.
They actually got the shot wrong the first time, so they actually needed to raise funds to build the
rebuild
house
it.
again and burn it down.
Wow.
Again.
How'd you write that one down? How'd you write that one down on the finance forms?
Yeah.
We need more. Yeah.
That was his last film as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. He burned a lot of houses down. I feel like because in The Mirror there's a house burning as well. He just loved burning houses. Something went wrong at home.
He's an
in his
inner
childhood.
arsonist, yeah.
Yeah.
Some sort of inner torment that he was trying to work out through his art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. Well, do you guys have any other questions you'd like to ask us?
Not right now, but I'll definitely follow you guys up very shortly. I think this has been very valuable, and thank you for your questions as well, Adam.
Yeah,
Yeah,
likewise.
no, thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll try and get you both on in a couple of weeks, maybe in 10 episodes from now, so we can see how you guys are getting on with what you're currently working on, how your film went in the New York Festival.
If you make
and
a sizzle reel, we could screen it.
yeah, if you make a scissor reel,
Cool.
we'll screen it during this and get feedback from everyone. Or no, but then
That
we
sounds
will be
great.
but then we will be putting it on YouTube with
That
copyright.
is true, but we did do that in our last one and it hasn't got taken down yet.
We'll see what we can do.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe we can make it unlisted or something and then take it down or whatever.
Yeah.
We'll figure something out.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Or just give everyone the Vimeo password.
Yeah.
So I actually have a question here from Peter. Claire, I think it might be good for you. So I'm just going to say it out. And if you guys want to chip in on it as well, then we'll end this kind of career road mapping on this question. So he says he may have a quick question for, I believe, us both, Claire. What is the basic strategy for raising money for your movies? Are there national funds in your country you could use? What are your options?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I think we need
Well,
to do a whole workshop on this, really, don't we?
I
I
think-
will make a note of that.
I think we do, but if we cover the UK, do you want to cover America, and do you want to cover either Germany or Australia? If not, we can
Yeah,
just touch base here in the UK.
I can answer to a little bit of Australia, but yeah, Adam, go first, or whoever.
Do you want me to repeat the question in any shape or form?
Yeah, if you don't mind. So it's just a little general about just financing options.
The basic strategy for raising money for your movie, and if there's any national funds in place for your country that you can use.
Yeah, I'm definitely more limited on that than a lot of the more European options for sure. And I'm sure Australia, it seems like, is a good source as well. But stateside, the governments mostly are interested in giving tax incentives of some sort, which, to Natalie and Claire's point, is very useful in the overall budget because of the subtraction that gets to happen at the bottom line. But other than that, yeah, I mean, there's just so many paths, and to Natalie and Claire's point, like hitting up mom and dad and hitting up family and friends generally, but also I found that, like I was saying earlier, like I've been hearing that the different budget ranges are good to ballpark, but sometimes you have to be flexible on like where that goes.
Yeah.
So like I was telling a production company, oh, we've got 10% of a potential budget raised based on just our family and friend, begging that we've done, but also based on a certain budget number that's under $1 million. And then someone says, oh, well, it needs to be more around the $3 million range or something, then that kind of changes the conversation. So it becomes a bit of a chicken or the egg thing. But ultimately, I think it's just getting people interested in the project who do have access to those larger funds, whether it's government representatives on the film fund side from your home area, or finding a producer in an area that is able to, like me following up with Eugene after this so that we can work with Screen Australia, and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Follow-
Oh,
Sorry.
do you want to go?
I was just going to say, following on from your point of finding a producer, I would actually suggest to Peter that he takes a look. So our co-founder, James Bradley, has done 2 workshops which cover quite extensively a few of these points. One of them was how to find a producer, where he talks about the different types of investors that you could come across. And the second one was crowdfunding, which some people instantly recoil at the mention of that, but it can just be really fantastic. We're a big fan of it here at Liftoff. We've seen it materialise into fantastic projects on a number of occasions. And he's done a workshop on that too, the best strategies for crowdfunding.
Yeah,
I
the
think
best
it's called.
strategies for crowdfunding.
But you can find those videos in our archive on our YouTube channel.
And we talked about producer. You just mentioned about getting a producer on board. Producers and executive producers, they're the people who know how to get money. They're the ones who fill out the forms, get in contact with the different organisations in your area. So, for example, in the UK, we have the BFI, which is the British Film Institute, and they have a range of different funding options. And then you can go down the other routes. But just Google in your area what is available. And if you're unsure about what is to offer, maybe talk to someone who has produced a couple of films and see if they use those routes. Ask filmmakers who are maybe a step ahead of you, how did they make their films? How did they get it funded? Then they can maybe have that key to get your projects made as well.
Okay, I would say just my experience with Australia, it's like at the moment you would probably want to apply to either one of the state funding bodies, and that's an involved process. So you have to you basically got to get your project past past the panel who are looking at it. But if you build a relationship over time, that's often the way. I think these if they've taken notice of you, if you keep applying. I know of a filmmaker who was a very good applicant, and she just sort of stuck at it for years on end. And eventually Jane Campion stepped in and said, "Listen, this is what you actually need. And I'll help you with it because your application's missed the mark." But what she needed was a better script, so she got a script doctor in. I think Jane Campion helped her,
Nice.
and then they submitted a film as the best film Australia made in I think about 10 years at that time. So that was called The Black Balloon.
Amazing.
So I mean, there's ways it is kind of building relationships over time, and getting your work out there and getting your face out there, and eventually I think that gives you a certain credibility, especially with institutional funding. So
yeah, definitely. Great advice. Thank you so much, both Eugene and Adam, for joining us here today. We will get you back in a couple of episodes. I will be in touch, and we can continue these conversations and see how far you've come since we last spoke.
Yeah, that would be so nice.
Thank you for having us.
No, absolutely.
That sounds great. Yeah.
Cool. All right. In that case, we will see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right.
Love to chat with you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye.
Okay.
Cool. We've had quite a few comments in the chat room there.
Nice.
So thank you everyone for joining us this evening. And before we head off, we're just going to talk a little bit about our Facebook members group. So here it is. So our Facebook members group, that is exactly where we pulled Adam and Eugene from. A couple of days ago, we put out a post and we invited them to join us today for the discussion. So if you are a professional member and you're looking for advice in any area of the film industry, do look out for a post from either myself, Claire, or James, or Ben, asking to get involved in these career road mapping sessions. We usually pick the first 2 people that reply to that message. So if you do want to get on board and meet us next week, keep an eye out. And if not, you can meet the other members who are in there and share your ideas and network along the way. Cool. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and we will see you again next week.
Yeah, thank you so much.